Greetings, I'm Herbert Erpaderp, and today I thought I would do a bit of woodworking. This is an N-scale coaling platform kit from Trackside Models. It's a laser-cut wood kit, so technically I am doing woodworking. Anyway, here are the instructions. These are just text. Pictures would have been nice, but unless you can't read, these are easy enough to understand and follow. Also, I forgot to take pictures of the parts on their sprues, frets, holy doodads. Oh well, time to build. You start with this frame. It's not difficult to remove the parts from their sprues. I'm going with sprues, though you may need to sand off some little nubbins. That's not hard to do, and you get a much nicer fitting and better looking model. The first thing to do is apply way too much glue. I've decided to try rocket card glue, which I've never used before. I was not expecting it to be that liquidy. The real first thing to do is add the legs. The end ones, which are the same as the middle ones, just on the ends, go into place quite easily. I've left it sitting against this sanding stick just so that it won't fall over while it bonds. I then add the rest of them. The ones in the middle have a tighter fit than the end ones, which is fine. It just means you have to apply a little pressure to get them into place. The instructions suggest installing these facing in alternating directions. I figured that might add some interest, so that's what I did. Though if you look closely, you'll notice I did mess up the order just a little bit. Surely nobody will notice that. Be careful when applying pressure to these. You might damage the bracing, like I did. I used tweezers to gently kajigger it back into shape. These will snap quite easily, so be careful. Here's the frame with all the legs attached. I installed a platform next. This has a little bit of an overhang, which the instructions mention. The overhang is meant to be on the side of the tracks. Doesn't really matter which side you choose to have the overhang on. This part is easy to get into place, but it did want to flex a bit, so I figured it was a good idea to weigh it down, just to be sure that it would bond straight and neat. Here it is all dried and bonded. Looks pretty good. The instructions speak of this long piece here. There are two of them, and they say to put this around 5mm below the platform level. I didn't really like the way it looks there, and none of the pictures on the website show this, so I glued one of them on just under the platform's overhang. This looks like it makes sense to me, and I just think it looks a bit more interesting. Next, I assemble the fences, again with way too much glue. There are two fences that comprise of two parts each, and as you might imagine, they go together very easily, though do be careful you've got everything aligned properly. I then glue them together in an L shape. I use the work surface to make sure things will sit level, and the markings on the cutting mat help make sure that they're together at a 90-degree angle, or close enough to it. The little shed is next, and the interlocking bits on the ends of these parts take any guesswork out of the vertical alignment, though they do look a little bit, well, unsightly. It's fine, really. I did use the cutting mat again to make sure it was as close to 90 degrees as I could get it. Here's the roof. This has overhangs too, and because I didn't quite trust myself to eyeball it, I left this until later. I glue the end frame parts on next. I figured putting these on first would make it easier to get the roof centered properly. They do also hide some of the interlocking bits at the corner, which is nice. The only tricky bit here is that you have to eyeball them so they're not overhanging anywhere. Not really that tricky. Once that's bonded, which happens pretty quickly with the rocket card glue, which is why I bought it, for card. But I did hear it was good for these kind of kits too. Anyway, I installed the roof with, again, probably too much glue. I started at the front just to make sure there wasn't going to be a weird overhang there. The front is going to be the more visible side, so if I have to choose, I want that side to look better. The roof goes on pretty nice and neatly. The only problem is there's a bit of a gap down the centre. I'll fix that later. Right now, I'm going to add a light. I figured this sort of thing might have a light on it, and it'll add some interest, so why not? I drill a hole where I want the light to be mounted, and then one in the platform, so I can run the wires down through the baseboard. The difficult part is threading the wires through the holes I drilled. They are very small wires. To make painting easier, I'm not actually going to install the light yet. It just seemed like it would be much easier to thread the wires through the holes before the shed is attached to the platform. I wrap the wire back around its little cardboard duver, though it is probably still going to make things a little bit annoying to handle, but that's okay. It's much better than trying to prime around the light. I then glue the shed onto the platform. The instructions say it should sit a little inward from the edge of the platform, and I did leave a little space on the end, but along the back, I installed it flush. I just thought it looked a bit better that way. They do also say that you can place the shed any way you want, but this seemed like a sensible enough position. The fence is going to place next. These were glued flush with both edges, because why not? And now for the most fiddly part of the kit, the steps. I did break one of the railing parts, so if you notice that looking really bad, it's not the kit's fault. Tweezers did make getting each tread into place a little bit easier, but it was still kind of annoying. Once all the treads were on one of the support things, I glued them into place. If I didn't, they would simply fall out as soon as I tried to put the other side on. Eventually I got them together, and they look alright. I was kind of tempted to give up on these and just 3D print some steps, and while it turns out I didn't need to, I may still do that. Probably not. I mean, I did glue these onto the platform here, which was the easy bit. It took a couple of hours before the idea came to me, but here's how I took care of the gap in the roof. This is 1.5mm quarter round styrene. I've forgotten why I bought it, but I have it, and after a bit of kajiggering, it seems to work pretty well as a little roof cap thing. I did also consider simply gluing a strip of paper over the gap, but I think this has worked pretty well. I don't know if this roof is meant to be tin or wood. It's probably not tile, but that's a problem for future Herbert to worry about. For now, the N-scale coaling platform from Trackside Models is completed, and I'm pretty happy with it. This does mean that I'm going to have a little coaling stage scene on my model railway. There were a couple of different coaling stage kits out there, and they all look fairly good, but this one was the easiest to get. It's local, also I think it's pretty interesting. I liked that it had a little shed on it. I am assuming that this is based on an Australian prototype, but I don't think it's going to be too out of place on my British-themed railway. Other than the stairs, this was quite a fun and not overly difficult kit to build. It's relatively well detailed, laser-cut MDF works really well for straight pieces, which this is made entirely of. I do plan on adding some extra bits of doodadery, maybe some fire buckets or something like that, but most of the extra stuff is going to be in the immediate area and not necessarily on the model itself. I've also got a water tower for the scene, which makes sense, and I'm thinking of maybe a grounded van as a storage shed or something like that. I think it's going to be fun. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to put them in the comments section below. Subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of thing, share the video with anybody you think might find it helpful, and if you really like what I do, and you want to see the videos a bit early, consider supporting on Patreon or Ko-fi. Links are in the description. Take care of yourselves, be excellent to each other, and thanks for watching. Farewell.